Hi guys, I love you. Because I love you, I'll save you any rants or anything like that and keep it all for this video if you decide to watch it later or not. This is a painful one. It's painful because I feel like a fool for falling into the whole Jordan Peterson gimmick. And if you've seen any of the other videos, I even made reference to clean your room and all the other crap that Peterson was spewing. So Peterson is a fraud. And I had a feeling about that. I thought that maybe he was co-opted, or he was going to be co-opted. But turns out he was a fraud from the beginning. And I was just in denial, I think, for the most part, because there were some things that he was just too intellectually dishonest about. And it sucks. It really sucks because I like Peterson. I still like Jordan Peterson and a lot of what he says, but I just don't trust him. I don't trust him. He had me fooled from the beginning. All because of Joe fucking Rogan. Because I'm a Joe Rogan podcast fan, and Jordan Peterson came out of nowhere, promoted by Joe Rogan, and what do you know? He was really cool, interesting, saying a lot of things about the post-modernist movement that was going on that seemed to be popping up, and it turns out that was just a sham from the beginning too. And I didn't know why. I couldn't make the connection. I couldn't see that this whole alt-right / intellectual dark web / fight against postmodernism / cultural Marxism was all a plot from the beginning. And I want to say something. I am not pro cultural Marxism, postmodernism, socialism. All that is horrible. I agree with a lot of what Peterson was saying and all those frauds of the intellectual dark web, because I don't agree with socialism at all. I don't agree with the postmodernism, Marxist viewpoints of any of that shit. And the thing that finally made me realize that Peterson was a fraud is because of the link between Islam and postmodernism. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why Islam embraced the whole postmodernist viewpoint of power being the absolute thing, and I didn't understand it. Why? Because it seemed counterintuitive. First of all, Islam isn't pro-feminism. They seem polar opposite. So why were they in cahoots? Why were they strange bedfellows, it seemed? And Peterson couldn't nail this down. And for as smart as Jordan Peterson is, I thought he would have figured this out, because I figured this out, and I'm not very smart. So when I figured it out, when I finally put 2 and 2 together, I realized what Jordan Peterson really was. He is a neocon. He is, sadly, a Zionist shill. And we'll get into Zionism and that whole thing, because that's a touchy subject that requires a lot of nuance. But for now, I'll get into the link between Islam and postmodernism. You see, who created this whole postmodernist, cultural Marxist issue was, you could say, Zionists or Jews for the most part, but they were the ones who pretty much started that movement. Whether it's from the Frankfurt School, all being backed by pro-Jewish and pro-Israel movements, and the whole thing, was really just a scam to trick the mainly German descendant white Americans into feeling bad about themselves. It's just a whole big psyop. And what ended up happening is that movement backfired on them, because the whole idea was who's in power. It's all culturally relative, all that stuff, and whoever has the power is the one who's in charge. And all of that needs to be leveled out so everybody has the equal amount of power. So they were pushing that white Americans had the majority of the power. And that's true to an extent. However, when it comes to being the majority while being a minority, let me explain that. So they're overrepresented, Jewish people are overrepresented in certain industries while being a minority. So they actually are a majority while being a minority. I know that's confusing, sorry, or just stupid of me to say that. Anyways, the whole point being is that is something that Peterson didn't address. Who has the power? Who's really controlling America and running the world? Who owns the banks? Who owns most of the media? Who is heavily influencing our politics and geopolitics, foreign policy, getting us into endless wars? I won't get started on 9/11. And just all around reducing our rights as American citizens just so they can implement all of their religious bullshit onto the world. And that is Zionist neocons. And sadly, Jordan Peterson is working on their behalf. Now, the neocons or / Zionists have all the power. And how do you take away that power? By using their own weapon against them, using cultural Marxism / postmodernism to take away the power of the Zionists. And so that was the weapon of choice for the Muslims, for Islam really, was a way to remove the power from the Zionists. And I didn't put that together. I didn't see that that was what Peterson was ultimately fighting against, was that weapon that Islam was using against the Zionists. And he couldn't put that together. And that's when I realized how intellectually dishonest he was being and what he really was. And then all of that going along with the intellectual dark web assholes and Joe Rogan douchebag who is really just pushing all this stuff too. And the distraction is to get white America behind this alt-right movement, to villainize them and using them as a shield, basically, to push the left down. And the progressive left happens to side with the Palestinians. Why? Because, well, Israel has the power and the Palestinians don't. And because that plays into the whole cultural Marxism thing, that's why the Palestinians and Islam in general embraces cultural Marxism, because it removes power from Israel and the Zionists specifically. It's sad that I fell into the whole Peterson trap, the Joe Rogan trap, what he really was. It's disgusting. It's disgusting what Joe Rogan really is. And I hope people wake up to that, because I stopped watching him. I mean, he has some awesome guests, scientists and other things that I'm super into, but I'm not going to watch him anymore. Because he's a shill. He's a fucking shill for the neocons. He's gatekeeping for the neocons to perpetuate endless wars. So he'll have on someone like Tulsi Gabbard and then have on Barry Weiss immediately after that. And then he has Sam Harris, who is another fucking shill for the neocons, continuing to prop up the whole Russiagate thing and the Russian bots and all that stuff by bringing on a new knowledge shill, sellout, I'm tired of using shill. So that whole thing was just really dubious, and that kind of set me off too. Fucking Sam Harris is into that shit, and covering up and pushing the whole Islam is bad thing on behalf of the neocons. I wonder if he really even believes that stuff that he says about Muslims, or if he's just doing it to get money. I don't know, but it's all disgusting, and it's really depressing because it just seems like everything is fake. Everything is a scam, a sham, really. All to protect the true power in this world. So let's touch on Zionism for a second, because that's a touchy subject, and nowadays it seems like if you say anything bad about Zionism, you're labeled an anti-Semite. First of all, that's wrong. That's just an old canard. That's avoiding the point of argument by calling somebody an anti-Semite. And here's the catch, because I agree with Zionism to an extent. Not from the religious aspect that Jews deserve a homeland based on the word of God and all that stuff. I don't believe that part, but I believe that everybody deserves a homeland. Everybody deserves freedom and a right and a place to live in their own state in which they feel safe and comfortable and deserve to defend and protect themselves. In that case, I believe Israel and Israelis and Jews should have a homeland. Now, that doesn't mean they get to kick people out of their homes who are already living there just because God said so. That's the part I don't agree with. Now, I'd probably get labeled an anti-Semite for saying that, even though I just finished saying that Jews deserve a homeland. So that's how tricky that whole topic is. You can be a Zionist and be anti-Zionist at the same time, based on the way they want to define Zionism. Most Jews, I think, would define Zionism as Jews deserve a homeland based on the Torah and the Word of God. That's fine. I don't agree with it that it should be the Word of God, but I believe everybody should have a homeland and feel pride in their home. Not quite necessarily a full-on nationalism, but they should at least feel a sense of pride in their nation and their home and all that stuff, yeah. So, the thing is, I think we should leave Israel alone, and Israel should leave us alone. We give them plenty of money, we give them lots of military aid, we've given them lots of bloodshed from American soldiers. That's the part that pisses me off. And I'm not even going to get into 9/11 because that's the whole other subject for a whole other video that I'll get into later. However, I think Israel has the right to exist. They should just exist on their own like every other country. And the excuse is, oh, well, they're our allies. Well, yeah, we have a lot of allies that we don't give billions of dollars to every year and spend lots of military aid and troops, the blood of our soldiers, American soldiers, doing the bidding of Israel. That's not an ally, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean any harm should come to them. I think they need to have their own homeland and be on their own, and we should be on our own. Sever ties. We can still trade and be economic partners, all that stuff, but I really wish they'd leave us alone. We'd leave them alone. So, that's why Peterson and the rest of the intellectual dark web douchebags deserve to go away, because they're all frauds. And I'm a jackass for falling into that and not relying on my instinct and digging deeper into what was really going on. I got took. And so I want that to be a lesson to you guys, to not just buy into everything. Sometimes you need to step back, trust your gut, think about things a little bit more, and question more. I didn't bother questioning the Rogan podcast at all, and all the different people that he was pushing. Stupid of me. And stupid of all the other viewers out there for not doing more research and questioning what they're being forced to watch. So, I hope you guys learn a lesson from this, because I sure did. Yeah, it's still sad and disheartening, because I really like Jordan Peterson. I really liked a lot of the stuff that he was pushing, but I don't know what to do with it now. I think I'll have to. I don't want to discard all of it, because there's some really great wisdom that he shared, but at the same time, it was all a secret psyop. So how much of it should you accept? I'm in a tough situation in a lot of ways with trying to figure out what to do with all this information that I've stored up from Peterson over the last 2 years. I don't know if I should just throw it all away or not, but either way, it's a lesson learned. Anyways, I love you guys. Take care. Clean your room or not. I don't care anymore.